Oh, man. I love our pre-production meetings whenever we can have them here at the podcast. Hi, everybody. It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim, and that's my buddy Ryan, who likes to talk right when I hit the record button. Rhino, good to see you, my friend.
I just want to say for posterity, my bad. It won't happen again.
You have
recorded here in stone. Won't happen again.
You are repping your TJ Hawkinson jersey, and you look like TJ Hawkinson. And
hey, baby, we've won 3 straight.
I wonder if you are like a kindred spirit to him or something. Like it was meant to be that he was going to come here.
You know, could be. Lauren saw him and thought the resemblance was uncanny.
Now, if I could just get Joe Burrow to like grow a beard and long hair and want to play for the Vikings, then we'd really be set. That would be awesome. Because then he'd come play quarterback for us, and then you'd have another kindred spirit. But that's
just need as many like chill, long-haired dudes as possible.
I think that might be right? You might be onto something there. And on the other side of my screen tonight, as I battle through a cough, by the way, sorry, is like, oh my Jesus, I'm so like, if I'm going to hit the cough button tonight, I know that. But if I fail to hit it, and Wheezy Jefferson shows up for a half hour, I want you to know that I'm sorry and that I didn't mean it. And I hope you'll forgive me here at the podcast. But the lovely and talented, dressed up, by the way, looking good as only she can look, Lauren Nelson Kane. Low.
Hey. Well, I'm wearing lipstick. Typically, I come to these pods. I don't know. Y'all are lucky if I have concealer on.
Yeah.
The words bog witch come to mind.
Yeah.
You know, like
generally
6 miles of bad road. I mean, just like a construction zone.
We do these pods usually on like Sundays after our kid has gone to sleep and for the weekend. And I usually look pretty road hard, put away wet. But today we had to take Christmas pictures.
Had to.
Had to.
Yeah.
Put it off for weeks.
Yeah. For, you know what? Good reason.
Were you hoping for snow? Were you hoping for snow by now? Or was that kind of the idea?
No, just hoping for peace in having a toddler.
Peace. Oh, I thought you were talking about peace on earth. Like true, like you were hoping like the Israeli conflict would be done by now. Like Ukraine and Russia had already signed a peace deal.
Held off taking Christmas pictures a couple weeks because I just thought, man,
we could have peace. Like we really could.
Like Hamas and Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I think they can figure it out.
You thought they'd sit down for a minute. You said, you know what?
And hell, that's why I voted for Trump.
Yeah, hell, that's why you did. No,
I did not vote for Trump.
For legal and ethical and social and all the other reasons, that is a joke.
Yeah. Jesus.
Don't cancel me.
Oh. And don't at me either, but no, I'm just kidding. And yeah, so I'm glad you got the pictures taken. I'm sorry that there's not peace on earth.
No. There also wasn't peace taking the pictures. One of our neighbors, God bless her actual soul, saw us attempt to take pictures with a tripod that wasn't working and one of our phones. And she just walked around the pond and was like, I'll just take your pictures if that's okay with you. And I was like, yeah, that's great. That's actually amazing.
She was sitting in her downstairs, like looking out her window going, oh, the Nelson Canes, bless their house.
She's just sipping her coffee.
Holding her coffee with both hands, by the way, because that like old people do. Just nursing that cup and drink. Oh, those poor kids. Just trying to have a Christmas photo.
She was definitely younger than us.
Oh, and she voted for Trump. I was going to say, no. I was going to profile this woman. I had it down.
No, she was super nice. And if the entire neighborhood watches us try to wrangle our child outdoors and takes pity on us, then that's perfectly fine with me. I am not above being pitied.
I was just picturing
help me, please.
Some 55-year-old woman just like, oh, they're over their heads. They're just in over their heads.
That's the HOA lady who harasses us for the dog poop that isn't ours.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter about it.
She has no interest in helping us, but she has plenty of interests in not minding her own fucking business. So
And there's that. And so I'm just happy that you're here. Now, tonight on Peak Cinema, despite the fact that we're all in various degrees of poor health, we're here tonight for you, our listeners, because we want to stay on schedule. That's very important for us to continue to give you Peak Cinema content. Again, people are listening, and I appreciate you doing that. Our original goal tonight was to do No Country for Old Men, do a little Coen Brothers back and forth here. But we kind of looked at all of the movies we had done in the last handful of months. And basically because, it's Halloween and September and things of that nature. And we thought, man, we've been throwing a lot of dreary, dark stuff at our fans for the last month and a half. And it doesn't get a whole lot darker than No Country, which, by the way, No Country is one of my, I can't wait to, we're not that we're not going to do it. We are just pushing it back a little bit because we wanted to work a comedy in. We think that's kind of important around this time. Speaking of peace and harmony, we wanted to work a comedy in. So we decided to put our heads together at the beginning of the week, and we figured, you know what? You've had a rough couple of weeks. Some of maybe, there's a good number of folks who've had a rough couple of weeks. They're going to have a rough couple of years coming up. Maybe a rough decade coming up. Who could say? Who could say? Who could say? I mean, nobody could say.
What
really
could you be referring to?
Joy of this podcast, Tim.
No, but we thought
this escapist idea that we've had. You're really laying the groundwork.
Well, no, Lauren told me I had to preface, and so I'm prefacing. I'm doing what Lauren told me to do in the notes.
You know what? This is a perfectly fine preface, and people can take it exactly how it's meant to be taken. And we thought all of us thought that it might be just a little bit depressing to talk about No Country for Old Men. And so we'll do it later.
Are you saying that the question, what's the most you've ever lost in a coin toss, doesn't make you happy?
Oh, the movie makes me happy. The movie is a great movie. In fact, I've read the book in the last 3 weeks just because I was so fired up to do this pod. And I still am. But we wanted to do a comedy tonight, and so we wanted to rack our brains, Lauren and I and Ryan, like what's a good comedy that we have not talked about yet on this podcast that we think needs to be talked about on this podcast? And one immediately jumped to the top of the line, and we have not. And it's unbelievable that we haven't talked about it. It's unbelievable that we haven't. Anchorman, The Legend Continues with Ron Burgundy. The Legend of Ron Burgundy, because The Legend Continues as Anchorman too. But The Legend of Ron Burgundy, Anchorman, is our movie tonight. Will Ferrell. This movie is an absolute classic. It's one of my all-time favorite. I mean, as far as quotable films, again, it might be like Caddyshack, where like in 20 years, we're like, this movie's not very good, but the one-liners and the big moments are still great. That's kind of Anchorman. But I'm glad we're doing it.
That is kind of almost exactly how I feel. We were talking about like movies like this that came out around like the early to mid 2000s, all these kind of Judd Apatow, a little bit dude bro-y humor. And for me, I feel like this, like Anchorman is the blueprint.
Yeah.
There are other movies like it that I like that may or may not do it as successfully as Anchorman, but I feel like there's something specifically special about that. This is got to be one of my favorite comedies ever.
100%.
Ever. We just watched it today, and I'm still laughing. Yeah, is there some of it that I found funny 15 years ago that I don't find funny anymore? Sure. But like the majority of the movie is just so well put together and so fun, and it has like a plot that makes sense, and it has characters that I like and care about. It's just, it's Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, and that's a hard combo to beat.
It's a good formula. Or at least it was, for a stretch, a very, very successful formula. This movie's 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the hard part to swallow here, is that this is a 20-year-old movie. And I'm trying to think of like, has there been a comedy in the last decade, 14 years, that even is on this planet with this kind of star power, with this kind of success, with this kind of staying power? And I
maybe
just don't
Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids, but what is that? 07, 08? I mean,
I feel like Bridesmaids isn't that long after this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bridesmaids almost might be the end of this run too, where like the raunch comedy kind of says, "Hey, all right, raunch comedy had its way from American Pie to Bridesmaids, and now we're all PC and we're getting cleaned up and we don't get to joke around about this stuff anymore." And at least there's some of that.
And you know what I think we talk about this a lot, like why a movie wouldn't get made now. And I don't necessarily think that this movie wouldn't get made now because it's like hyper offensive or like overly edgy or something like that. I just think it wouldn't get made now because it's just not the kind of movie that gets made anymore. The raunchy comedy is dead a little bit. And like, I really thought that Jennifer Lawrence movie came out last year, which I actually thought was pretty good.
I liked it. Yeah, I did.
And I really thought that was going to be maybe some kind of genesis that we would make a couple more of those because that was so wildly successful.
Yeah, it did well. Liked it.
It just hasn't happened yet, I suppose. But
do you think part of it is that there's Hollywood actors that just don't want to put their name on anything that might be remotely offensive because image is everything right now? And people are so hyper whatever about it. Like, hey, if I say this, does this tie me to this group or does this put me in this particular box, And so I need to make movies that are either super artsy and independent or do I need to make these super crowd pleasing superhero films? I just feel like there's this, they're worried about offending somebody. And so therefore they don't even attempt anything.
I think it's less about offending people. I don't think people are afraid to offend. What I think is there's a lot fewer of these type of actors and writers now.
That's probably good too.
You have a lot of the very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the Timothy Chalamet-ification of Hollywood, right? Where everyone who is a young prodigy is like a very serious actor. Yeah. And, you don't have the goofy, who's a Will Ferrell now?
No, you're right.
Like you kind of have Kevin Hart for a little bit there, but like Kevin Hart isn't Will Ferrell. And I don't think anybody would mistake Kevin Hart for Will Ferrell. His ability to improvise isn't there the way that Will Ferrell's is. That the ability, you don't get blooper reels anymore because nobody's trying to improvise, right? You stick to what the writers write. You don't even, it's not just beats anymore. There's no great SNL writers out there coming out to write movies anymore because SNL isn't great.
And so much of these movies are fan service too, right? Like it's like, I'm just going to crack jokes that are super meta, and they're going to just get the crowd's going to laugh because, that's Wolverine and Deadpool to me. I just watched that movie over the weekend, and I'm just like, one meta joke after another. It's nothing new under the sun, nothing really creative or original there. Wasn't super blown away by it. Doesn't mean it's not funny in times, but it's like if that's what passes for comedy. Like we're done, boarded up.
And for me, okay, so a lot of things I have to say here. One, I like Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it's revolutionary. I think it is a sequel to Deadpool, and that's who Deadpool is. Two, I don't think it's necessarily a lack of these kinds of writers or these kinds of actors, because you do have people on SNL who are talented in that way. You have people on Dropout who are very talented in that way. And I think the problem is more coming from production. The problem is coming from production companies and what CEOs who have never written a script or said a line in their entire life believe to be quote unquote safe choices to make. So basically what you have is you have A24, you have Neon, you have those kinds of indie production companies making very interesting, very cool, very weird, very offbeat movies that only play in LA and New York and Chicago, and that everywhere else doesn't even get until it's on a streaming service. And then you have massive fucking blockbusters. You have Disney.
You said it right there, WB. Disney. They own everything. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, what are the other ones? You have Disney, you have WB, and they're the ones making all the big blockbuster movies right now. So your Marvel films, your DC films, and, you know, Indiana Jones 18 and all that bullshit. So those are like the only two kinds of things being made right now. And I really don't think, and you can tell because Jennifer Lawrence, Oscar winner, multiple award winner, young starlet now in her 30s, comes out to make a raunchy comedy like a year ago. There are people who want to do that stuff. There are people who still enjoy that stuff. I don't think it's creatives. I think it's non-creatives. Non-creatives are fucking destroying this business, and I don't have an anti-capitalist script in front of me right now, but I could easily write one. David Zaslav and Bob Iger. I can't say what I want to say.
Yeah, people are listening now. You got to be very careful, Lauren, with your words. You got to choose that. You know, got to part. But I think you're right. I mean, but also I think going to Ryan's point though, I think Ryan's right. I don't think there are like, yeah, there you're you know, Colin Yost and, you know, Michael Che. There's some funny guys. There's funny guys, right? Yeah. But is there like Will Ferrell when he was on Saturday Night Live had whatever it is, that je ne sais quoi, or what it just, you looked at him and you were like, yeah, that guy's funny. And same thing with like when Kristen Wiig was on, it was the same thing. It was like, yeah, she's just funny. Like she's just different than everybody else. Like the jokes, just whatever reason, they work with them and they don't always work with others. And I think, you know, Ferrell was a generational talent, you know, that came through there. And I think it's more of an ensemble now. I don't think when I look at this cast at this moment, there's a generational talent in there. I just think there are a lot of solid people that do good work, but nobody that I'm looking at and going, well, that's Chris Farley or that's Will Ferrell or whatever.
Let's point this out too, that you mentioned Colin Jost, but like, when was the last time they had a really great skit? Right? When was not Weekend Update?
Yeah.
Right. Weekend Update's great on its own merits because like, yeah, they're good one-liners that you're talking about the news and current events, but it's really consumable.
Well,
when was the last time that we had a really, truly great skit from SNL?
The last viral one is the Washington one with Nate Bargatze, but that's just it. It's because it's Nate Bargatze, right? It's because he's super funny, but he was the host and that was a funny bit.
I could name a couple, and I don't even watch SNL. They had the Domingo one a couple of weeks ago. What's his name? Marcel Hernandez. Is that his name?
Yeah, but he's not making movies yet. Do you know what I mean?
Not yet, but he's new. I mean, SNL is a rotating thing, but he's not making movies yet. But Bowen Yang is. Bowen Yang is certainly making a name for himself. Every time I see a skit go viral, it's Bowen Yang. There's Sarah, what's her name? God, what is her last name? I can picture her face so clearly. She's funny. There are people in the wings. They're just not there yet because they just lost like a couple of years ago their big names.
Well,
right?
It did take a few years too for this Will Ferrell cast too. When like Will Ferrell, originally this group that Ferrell was let in wasn't well received. Like they had to kind of work their way in, and it was Chris Kattan and Sherry O'Terry and all of those folks that kind of had to figure it out after a while. But then when they hit their stride, all of a sudden, like they exploded and they became.
That's how SNL works, right? Like Will Ferrell is a generational talent, but there have been many. Tina Fey, Amy Poehler. I don't really like Jimmy Fallon, but he's the host of The Tonight Show. That's a crazy feat. Seth Meyers. Right. I mean, all of those people that from when I grew up, and then they had, you know, your Pete Davidson, Kate McKinnon, Adie Bryant, you know, Maya Rudolph keeps coming back to the show, Andy Samberg. Like all these people needed to work through some shit. You know, SNL is a place where you watch people grow up and then they move on from it, unless you're Kenan Thompson for some reason.
Or Tim Meadows. Yeah, Tim Meadows stayed on for like 1,000 years too.
Yeah.
But.
So I think right now, it's hard to judge SNL right now because they are obviously in that growth period. And there are some standouts, but we won't really know for a couple of years. And like you said, Will Ferrell was no exception. I really have a hard time blaming on the ground comedians and improvisers and writers and directors because I do think that there is a want for movies like that. There is a want for the raunchy comedy. There is a want for like a mid-budget comedy, like when we talked about Game Night. I really think that that CEOs who profit off of the backs of these people don't believe that those kinds of movies make enough money to be worth it. And smaller studios like A24, Neon can't really afford to make tons of those. They have to diversify their portfolio so that they can stay in the conversation. So like they've made Bottoms, but that's really all they can do in that year.
Ferrell had a really great run. This is like is Ferrell, can we say this is like height of his powers heading into Anchorman, or is that still later? Because he comes out, he leaves Saturday Night Live in 0102. He does Old School in 2003, which is a massive hit. He does Elf in 2003, which is a massive hit. He does Anchorman in 2004, massive hit. I mean, just scores 3 huge hits right away. Does The Producers, which people like. Does Bewitched, which is terrible. Kicking and Screaming, which isn't very good. Stranger Than Fiction is really good. Like, I think that's one of my favorite movies that he's done, maybe the best. That's in 06. But he makes like 8 films in the span of 4 or 5 years, and he's just doing goofy stuff. He does Blades of Glory, Semi-Pro, Step Brothers, Land of the Lost. He does The Other Guys, and there's some duds in there, but he scores with this sort of everyman comedy bit. And it just seems like that's his game. Like, and he's so damn likable that it doesn't matter what he does, we're going to laugh and find him funny, with the exception of Bewitched.
I think the thing is that it's hard to pinpoint the height of his powers because it's so up and down. He's either in the funniest thing you've ever seen or just the biggest piece of shit.
Is he like The Rock in that way? Because The Rock, like, The Rock can make a huge score, but this Red One movie looks absolutely dreadful. And I'm ready to throw some dirt on The Rock. Like, you maybe want to go back and wrestle for 4 or 5 years. Because I don't want to put you the lead in any movie going forward. Again. You're out. Yeah, you're out. I don't want you there anymore.
And I think there's a lot of that going on. I mean, like I look at, man, I'm looking at his IMDb page right now, and it's like my favorite movie followed by 5 pieces of shit. And then my favorite movie again, followed by 8 pieces of shit. And it's just like, he just agreed to be in everything, anything. He has Jim Carrey energy to me. Like, he just can't contain himself. And it just feels like it didn't really matter to him if it was good, so long as he got to play around and improvise and whatever.
And he got paid a lot. Yeah.
But I think that's kind of par for the course for this era too, though, right? Where it was a lot of people, comedians, not even really comedians, comedic actors, right? Because there's a difference between comedians and comedic actors. And I think that we muddy that a little bit today. And that's probably one of the reasons we don't see these work as well. But we can get into that a little later. But the point that I'm trying to make is that they weren't afraid to fail, and they weren't afraid to take shots and say, hey, that sounds like I could make that funny. Like, that sounds like that could work. And then they try it. They did it. And sometimes it didn't work. But then the result of that is you kind of have this famine mega feast, right? Sort of like a really, like Adrian Peterson was that way with the Vikings for a long time, where it was like he'd run for like 2-3 yards, 2-3 yards, 2-3 yards. And then he'd bust out like a 65-yard home run threat to flip the game. And that's Will Ferrell's career.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, he's a hot and cold guy, but like, he will leave, like his career will be over. And when it is, we will look back and say like, but he did like 4 or 5 standing pieces of American film that are like going to be watched in 30 years. Like Elf, Anchorman,
Elf is a
Step Brothers. Yeah, Step Brothers for sure. Old School, not so much. Old School's faded out. Yeah. Old School was red hot for the moment that it came out, and for like a 3 or 4 year run, it was a red hot film. But that one's kind of that's disappeared out. I mean, it's really not a part of the lexicon. But like, certainly Elf, Anchorman, Step Brothers, that will be on the list for forever of films. I mean, Elf is in the Christmas canon, which it might be the only modern Christmas film in the last 25 years to even be canonized that way.
Well, that's like
they don't watch these movies over and over again.
Elf is to Christmas movies what like Mariah Carey is to Christmas music. Do you know what I mean?
100%. That's a great example.
And he's still making movies that I like. He made Barbie last year. He's so funny in that movie, dude. He's perfect in that movie.
Now he's kind of a role player. Like you have to get him. He's the player. He's the basketball player at the end of his career who can only shoot threes and he can only play about 10 minutes a game. But if you get him in the game in the right moment at the right time, he is going to just score for you. Like he's a heat check dude now. And I think, he's doing kind of passion projects. Like he did the road trip with Harper Steele on Netflix thing, or what, I don't know what the title of that is, but it's basically those two traveling the country together in this documentary. And it's supposed to be very well received. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I know for Will Ferrell, he was out there doing what he does, like just kind of mingling with regular folks. And that's kind of who Will Ferrell is. I don't think he's ever been like a big timer. Doesn't strike you as that.
Well, yeah. And he's, I think you're right too. He's just kind of I think he's always kind of done whatever he wants, but I think he's a little more choosy these days. Not that he doesn't make movies that look like ass. He made some kind of Apple TV Plus Christmas musical with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it's terrible.
God on high.
It just produced a viral TikTok video is all it really produced.
Yeah. Looks like absolute ass, like a nothing movie, like everything Apple TV Plus makes besides Ted Lasso.
You're pretty much right about that.
But yeah, I mean, a little bit of a part in Barbie. He's kind of perfect for it. He has like a very minor part in this past season of The Boys. And it's just, I don't know. I just sense that he's doing the kind of thing that he wants. And right now he's mostly producing. The amount of things that he produced is crazy. He's an executive producer of Succession. He's a producer of Theater Camp, which we talked about on the pod. He's a producer of The Menu. He's a producer of a movie that we have not talked about, but everyone should watch called Am I Okay? And it's on HBO Max. He's a producer of Hustlers. I mean, like there's, I don't know. It feels like he's really.
Part of that is he hits his stardom late, right?
Yeah.
When Old School comes out, he's 36 years old or 37 years old. Like he's not
really that old.
Yeah, he's born in 67. So it's like he's on Saturday Night Live. He gets his break on Saturday Night Live when he's, late 20s, and, he does that, till he's about 35 or so or whatever it is. But that's Old School's 03. He's 36 years old. He doesn't do Anchorman until he's 37, 38. So, it's kind of a late prime for an actor, especially an actor who's trying to be a leading man.
Do you consider Talladega Nights in his canon?
I think some people will because there are some one-liners in there, but I think it's behind Step Brothers. It's behind the other guys. It's behind Anchorman. Like, it's just not going to be on that list, I don't think. It's there because they love John C. Reilly and him. Like, they get along. So they have that great chemistry. It's just not the same movie. It's just not very good.
I definitely think that it's kind of second tier.
Yeah.
I loved it when I first saw it, but I definitely think it's just below that first tier.
Yeah.
Well, and this is what I want to talk about too, is like, I consider of these kinds of Adam McKay, Judd Apatow, raunchy comedies, I consider Anchorman to be the best.
Yeah, me too.
And I think a lot of that is because of, we're talking about Will Ferrell so much, but I think a lot of that is because of Christina Applegate's character. Like, It's something, I love Step Brothers, but that's something Step Brothers doesn't really have. That's something Talladega Nights doesn't have. It's something Knocked Up doesn't have, even like Judd Apatow movies. And I think it's because she is obviously the straight man. She's like the representative for the audience, like talking about how ridiculous some of this stuff is. But she's also a character in this universe. So she's just as ridiculous and just as funny and just as biting as everybody else. She's not a massive buzzkill.
I agree with you. I love Christina Applegate in this movie. I mean, her career, she's an actress that I think I'd like to see a do-over on her. I'd like to see her career run back 10 times and see if we could make her a bigger star. Because I'd like to think we could have. Because she's great. Like, she is just so awesome talented in everything. We'll get back. Let me put a pin in that. Here's the plot for Anchorman real quick, and then we're going to get back to Applegate, because I do agree with you. I think she's the difference in this movie, why this movie's elevated, and maybe why some aren't. So, Anchorman, 2004, satirical comedy. Made $90.6 million worldwide, came out in 2004. It's set in the 1970s. It's satire at its finest. It's meant to look at the misogynistic world of news, TV news, until Veronica Corningstone shows up to kind of ruin everything. Great cast. Not good, great. Here is your cast. You have Will Ferrell, Christina Applegate, Paul Rudd, Steve Carell, David Koechner, Chris Parnell, Kathryn Hahn, Fred Armisen, Fred Willard, Vince Vaughn. Danny Trejo makes a bit part. Jack Black has a bit part. Tim Robbins has a bit part. Luke Wilson, Ben Stiller. It is an incredible cast, and it is not a long movie. It just clips, and it might be, joke for joke, the funniest movie of the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Is that a pretty good overview of this?
I mean, I think so. I think I was talking to Ryan about this while we were watching it too. Like, it's different than like an Airplane, where it's like, there's not really a plot in Airplane. Like, there is, but it's not super vital. It's just joke. It's just one-liner after one-liner, right? This to me is like, this movie feels very thought out. The plot makes a lot of sense. Everything in it is driven emotionally. It just so happens to be fucking hilarious.
With the exception of the fight scene, right?
You know what? You take that fight scene out over my cold dead body.
No,
that is the fucking funniest thing. And that's another thing too. This movie refuses to take itself seriously. Just utterly refuses.
I agree with you.
It just feels fun. It's just fun.
It clearly looks like everybody's having a good time making the film. And I do think that matters, right? And we know that it makes sense because we haven't heard, the true Hollywood story, if you will, 20 years later, of Steve Carell had just a horrible time on the set, and he was fighting with the scriptwriters every day, and Will Ferrell big times the cast. You never hear that. Nobody says that about this film. Nobody who ever worked on it says anything about it. And that's why I think maybe so well loved and well received. You mentioned Applegate, though. Obviously, she's gone through her health issues now in recent years, and she's still, really battling that. And it's really unfortunate because that's kind of going to be, it's probably the end of her career, because, it really was the end of Selma Blair's career. It's just, it's unfortunate because, like I said, I think we run back her career. I just think there's different outcomes for her. Don't you think?
Yeah, there's some of it that it's like, I don't work in Hollywood, so I don't know everything. But like, sometimes I see people's IMDb pages and I'm like, so is this your decision-making skills or is this your agent's decision-making skills? Because I think that Christina Applegate is very fucking talented. I think she's very funny. I think the last thing on her IMDb page is the Netflix show Dead to Me, which is very, very well received.
Yeah, it did well.
That is such a phenomenal, if that's the last thing she does, that is such a phenomenal way to retire. But then I'm looking at the rest of it and I'm just like, okay, so if we start with Married with Children, because that's really where she broke out.
10 years on maybe one of the best sitcoms of that era. Yeah, without question. And unfortunate for her for playing such a good character, because she played it so well that it might have worked against her, right? That she kind of was like, oh, she's bimbo blonde, but it's like, you don't know how good this lady really is at playing bimbo blonde. Like, she just played this character, but she's so much better than that it's crazy. But I wonder if that show I mean, don't get me wrong, it's mailbox money for life. Probably it's probably done quite well for her, but it's maybe a blessing and a curse, right?
I think when you're on a show for that long, that's really, I think a lot of people would talk to you about that. Even if you're looking, so she played, I'm thinking about Friends. She played Jennifer Aniston's sister on Friends. Jennifer Aniston has had like a pretty good career post Friends, but she's kind of the only one. And it's not exactly what I would consider a phenomenal career. It's hard to break free from that kind of stuff.
It is.
It just is. And it's unfortunate because I just think every time I see her in something, she's good.
I agree with you.
She's fantastic.
I love Christina Applegate.
She's such a light in this movie for me. I think it would be very easy for her character to be a buzzkill. The whole premise of the movie is that they have a female anchor on the show now, or a female journalist on the show now. And there's all this kind of over the top misogyny, chauvinism that's happening. And I think it would be very easy for her to just like be an annoying person and just be like, you're a misogynist and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And it's not quite that. It's something else. She gets to have quite a bit of fun.
She has some great lines in this movie too, like super great. Like even like really subtle lines too. I think of in the restaurant, the jazz flute scene, or right before the jazz flute scene where she's supposed to go on this date with Ron. It's not a date, strictly professional, But she's like, but he's cute. No, he's not cute. No, he's not cute. He's hairy.
Yes. I love that. I'm like straight up. I have it in one of my favorite scenes, but I have like 15 favorite scenes, so I'll keep it to a minimum. But when Ron is out and she has to cover, and she goes up to Fred Willard and she says, I'm good at 3 things: fighting, screwing, and reading the news. And I've already done one of those today. What's the other one going to be? And then she just like slaps Fred Willard in the face and pushes Chris
Fred
Parnell.
Willard has the greatest line ever with the screwing. Like he's like, yes, I don't know. What could it be? What's next?
Just, I will be in makeup. And he just goes, Jesus, she's terrifying. Yeah. She gets to have so much fun in this movie, even though she is functionally the straight man. And I really, really appreciate that. And I think that's Christina Applegate. I also think that's Adam McKay.
I'm glad we got Fred Willard in this movie. And Fred Willard doesn't always have a lot of one line. He really has to be straighter than normal because Fred Willard, if we remember when we watched him in Waiting for Guffman, he pays off. Like every scene he's in, he's a payoff guy. And in this movie, he's just sort of meant to be this sort of goofy head of a news station. And he's super, I just love Fred Willard to death. So he's so damn likable that everything he does is great. Ron, are you paying attention? No, I'm not. All right. So here's what we're doing.
I also love the like C plot of Fred Willard's son is like terrorizing the school that he's at. Yeah. He's like showing pornography off at his Catholic school. He's like, my son took something called acid and fired a bow and arrow into a crowd. So I have to go take care of that. Oh God, I love that.
Oh my God. Yeah, that one is that's awesome. It's also really cool to watch Steve Carell kind of pre-Office, like ready to break out. Like he's still, I think I don't know if he's still doing Daily Show at this time, but he breaks out and he's, going to be a big star. Paul Rudd is like on the cusp of being a big star. He's kind of being, side characters. He's guest starring on shows. And, how could we know that 17 years later, he'd be freaking Ant-Man and, he'd be this guy that is widely considered one of everybody's favorite actors in Hollywood.
Also hasn't aged.
Hasn't aged a bit.
One day.
Not also, one day.
The thing I'll point out is neither he nor the other person who is in the MCU in this movie have aged.
They look better somehow, and that makes me viscerally angry.
That of course, being Catherine Hahn.
Yes, of course. Catherine Hahn, yeah, she still looks just absolutely great.
She looks better. She looks better now.
Close, she looks way better. Movie. Yeah, way better.
You just like the witchy vibe.
And everybody else is aged. Everybody else looks 20 years older. Like Steve Carell looks older. Will Ferrell looks older. Everybody, Fred Willard's dead, for Christ's sake. I mean, everybody else gets older, with the exception of these two guys. Yeah, rest Fred Willard's soul. I mean, good God. But what a great, great film.
Dropout's own Paul F. Tompkins in this movie.
Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins. Yes. Yes. Should we get to some of the categories?
Yes.
Because this is okay. Let's favorite scenes. Now we really got to caveat this because this movie is just one scene after another of just memorable nonsense. Starting with the opening credits. I mean, the opening 5 minutes of this film is
hilarious.
There may not be anything quite as that might be the best opening to a movie comedy. Maybe ever. It's the most quotable. I don't know. You can say any one of the opening lines and they will know exactly what it's from. I look good. I mean, really good. I mean, everybody come in here and see how good I look.
The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.
Yes, exactly. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Good.
Oh my God.
I love this. It's seriously picking. I have like 5 or 6 written down and I really gotta be cool about it. But you're right. This movie is just tons of little segments of like the funniest scene you've ever watched.
And like I said, it's so quotable because you can just say it to anybody and they'll know what movie you're talking about. Even some of my high school kids will know an Anchorman quote if you throw it at them. You know, not all of them, but some of them will be like, oh, is that Anchorman? What is that? Everybody knows Anchorman. You know, you stay classy, San Diego.
I'm so curious. I mean, this movie came out. Okay, so this is 2004, right? So I would have been like 13, right?
Shut
up.
That's
sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Apologies. You did know me when I was a teenager.
I was 23. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Apologies.
Anyway, you're welcome.
So I would have been 13. So that's like perfect age to watch to be introduced to this movie. I am curious to know what like the youths think about this movie now. Because again, I don't think it's offensive.
No,
really.
I don't think so. Although I did have one of my speech kids because we talked about this as a cut. Okay. And my speech kid said, nah, too rapey, too offensive, too misogynistic, couldn't do it.
But that's the point. I mean,
I said it's satire. It's satire. Yeah. It's meant to be satire. None of it's literal. You're not supposed to take any of this seriously.
Oh my God. It's giving when I was on Twitter, and this is part of why I'm not. I'm so honest.
How many of you deactivated Twitter in this place? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Yay. 3 for 3.
I deactivated Twitter a long time ago, but I saw a post that was something like, man, I forgot how racist Hairspray was. And I'm like, no, Hairspray isn't racist. It's critiquing racism. Why do we have this? Why are we doing this? This, like, I don't think Anchorman, the movie Anchorman, is misogynistic. I think it's critiquing that kind of misogyny. That's I'm not going to sit here and say it's some kind of like it deserves a Medal of Honor or something.
Yeah, like Susan B. Anthony would endorse this film.
It's a comedy.
Yes, it's a comedy.
The humor is not at Christina Applegate's expense. It's not at women's expense. It's actually at Ron's.
Yes.
Like, so what are we?
Too many.
The fact that Brick Tamlin has an IQ of 45. Yes, like Brick Tamlin has an IQ of 45.
Yes,
like
hey,
it's the whole point.
Him. It's 48.
48. I'm sorry. And, as he's putting mayonnaise in the toaster, which is
he is a senior advisor to the Bush
White House. Yes, that's right.
Oh my God.
Again, going back to that opening scene where we get introduced to everybody, it's, you know, they're at this pool party and there's Brick. Hi, Brick here. He's dumping mayo into the toaster. You got Champ Kind talking about Whammy, and you have Brian Fantana who's holding a gun and he's smoking a cigarette going, yep, that's true. I got a name for my penis and I've named my testes. You know, it's just like the most ridiculous thing in the world. You're supposed to laugh at this.
It's so over the top. It's so deliberately over the top, and it is so funny. The opening to this movie is fantastic. I will say just to caveat the rest of this podcast, Brick is my favorite character in this movie. There is simply nothing he does or says that doesn't make me laugh. Everything in this movie.
Brick's got some lines that absolutely floor me. The fight scene where he's holding the grenade. Brick, where'd you get a grenade? I don't know. I can't talk about quotable scenes. There are so many of these that like me and my friends would say to each other constantly growing up. Constantly. And that's one of them. I do it all the time.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's just
the way that Steve Carell says everything is like,
yeah. With that smile. It's that smile that he gives at the end of things. That's what does it. It's the smile that really wins it for me. And give me a favorite scene.
I mean, take your pick. I love this whole movie. I've loved this whole movie since the day I saw it. This
hasn't changed either, right? You're 20 years later. You've seen it 100. I've seen it 100 times. It still makes me laugh. It still makes me laugh.
I mean, like I said, take your pick. There is not a bad scene in the entire movie. I don't think this is about as close to a perfect comedy as you can get. There isn't a scene that I would change. There isn't a scene that I would take out. I love every minute of this movie.
Right from jazz flute to afternoon delight, which I think of all the scenes in the movie, outside of Sex Panther, which by the way, I think I've quoted that whole Sex Panther scene. I think I've quoted it 1,000 times.
How many of us rely on that line 60% of the time? It works every time. How many of us have said that like 1,000 times in the last year?
That's a perfect line.
I do all the time. I look at somebody and go, it's quite pungent. Stings the nostrils.
I wore a new cologne to a QCTV gig, and Tim said that to me.
I did. He came up to me. I was like, such a formidable scent. Stings the nostrils.
I don't think you are allowed to let somebody like put on just a smidge too much cologne without saying that line.
You have to
legally,
say it.
I think you have to.
You say, and then you go, Ryan, I'm not going to lie to you. That smells like pure gasoline.
God, that smells like a diaper full of Indian food. I have to say, any of the scenes where Christina Applegate looks like she's trying not to break character, do it for me.
The pleats, the erection scene with the pleats,
massive erection.
Oh my God, is that funny? Oh Lord, is that the funniest scene?
She's smiling, so you can kind of play it off like, yeah, she might be laughing at him, but at the same time, it's like, no, that is the actress struggling to stay in character.
Because he's looking at it going, oh, geez, I'm going to walk this off. It's actually an optical illusion. I was about ready to take them back to the pants store.
That while we're talking about this scene, that is what makes this scene funny, because I think that just like the fact that that's happening in that scene isn't very funny, but it's the Ron trying to cover for it.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh.
I'm going to go walk this off here.
I got to take them back to the pants store.
It's an optical illusion. It's meant to be quite flattering in the crotchal region. And
God, it's so good. It's so good.
The afternoon delight scene is so funny because it's probably my second favorite scene, because it's the movie in a nutshell, right? It's just like, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. You are literally supposed to just laugh the entire time. It's this great moment with, first of all, there's the great dialogue that leads up to the song. Like, I was in love once. Really? What was her name? I don't know. It's not a good start, but keep going. And I love lamp. I love carpet.
Rick, are you just saying that you love the lamp?
I love lamp. And then it's like, no, Ron, we need to know. Tell us, please. And he starts singing Afternoon Delight. Like, it's like that is the Bible of all relationships. It's such a killer piece of the movie.
It's the harmonies, and then it's as soon as they're done singing, I have to make a call.
Yeah. I just love when they stop singing. Man, you got mental problems. Yeah, dude, you got mental problems. Afternoon Delight. And then, they break out right there. I remember my old man watching this for the first time ever, and he just couldn't stop. I thought my dad was going to have a heart attack and die, like right in our living room floor. And I'm going to be like, well, he watched Anchorman and then he died. Like that was it. Cause he was laughing
way to go.
hysterically. What a hell of a way to go. But he could not stop laughing at any of that.
That's what I think is so good about this movie. It has a good plot. It has decent character. I mean, not super deep, but decent characterization, and everyone is very well thought out. And then they're just having fun. They don't need that scene. That scene doesn't have to exist.
No, we don't need any of that. That could have been handled before the song, but we get the song anyway.
And it elevates the movie in that way. They're just having a ton.
It's the same with the jazz flute. It's the same with the jazz flute scene that lasts forever. East Harlem Shake. And he pulls the flute out of his jacket, kind of his arm of his jacket. It's like, I'm not even ready here. All right, East Harlem Shake down, and let's take the bass line. And he just starts playing it in the bathroom. It's just hysterical. And
it's so good.
How many times have you wanted to order 3 fingers of Glenlivet and some cheese at a restaurant? Have you ever thought about ordering that?
No, but I whatever Veronica orders is like nonsense.
Yeah,
and
so
I do
ridiculous.
Something with a side of steel-toed boots or something. And I'm like,
vermouth in the side with a pair of steel-toed boots.
I would die to order. I'm too anxious.
Sir would look at you and go, what in the hell are you talking about?
I don't even like having,
who drinks that anymore?
I don't even like having complicated Starbucks orders. I can't imagine ordering whatever the fuck that is.
I don't even know. Have you ever had vermouth, Ryan?
Yeah.
You're the alcohol guy. You ever had vermouth? Vermouth?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I have.
Don't call me the alcohol guy on a podcast.
No, but you're a fancy drinker. You always talk about, I've got a bourbon that's been sitting in an oak barrel for about 70 years, and
I like to taste whiskeys.
I'm just saying that makes you more of an artisan about it. That means you can talk about vermouth.
I've had vermouth.
Yeah.
There's sweet vermouth and there's dry vermouth.
You have it in what, like a gin? Like or a
martini?
Martini, right?
Yeah, so gin. I like vodka martinis. I'm not a big gin guy.
Yeah.
That's because gin is ass, and I will die on that.
You know why? That's because everything that comes from Britain sucks.
That's not true. That's not true. Golf is great.
Hey, that comes from Scotland. That doesn't count.
Yeah, but that's part of the UK. UK. Part of the,
they don't want to be.
I know they don't want to be, but they don't have the votes. Anyway, we've talked about this 100 times over.
Okay.
So other favorite scenes.
So I'm gonna rapid fire a couple of scenes/lines that I like, and then I'll get to my actual one. Brick not being able to hit on Veronica makes me laugh every time.
Pants party, always
pants
good.
Party. Brick, are you saying that there is a party in your pants and that I am invited? Yes, that's it.
That's it.
That scene makes me laugh every time. We talked about Afternoon Delight and fighting, screwing, and rating the news. Tits McGee is on vacation.
Tits McGee.
That kills me. That freaking kills me. I just knowing the look on her face. The look on her face when she hears it and then just says, I'm Veronica Corningstone. Tits McGee is on vacation. And she turns to Ron and Ron goes, and I'm Tits. I'm Ron.
All of the.
Oh my God.
That's such a good one. It reminds me of all those ones in the beginning too that I forgot about where he's just like, he's doing, I love scotch. Scotchy, scotch, down to my belly. Mm-mm. Audrey, look at my eyes. It's Bush. It's Bush League. Well, if you were a man, I'd punch you. I'd punch you right in the mouth.
It's so fantastic. And then, okay, so those are my rapid fire ones.
Yep.
The news team fight scene.
Oh, it's great.
Does not need to exist, but it does. It just does.
Something about Vince Vaughn in this movie as
he's so good.
Mantooth. It's just the best.
He's so good. And I love it's effectively a parodying like West Side Story, right?
Right.
That's what they're doing. All the other different news teams, Luke Wilson and Tim Robbins from PBS and Ben Stiller from the Univision or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so fantastic. And that it immediately escalates to Luke Wilson gets his arm cut off and Brian Fantana gets two guys are riding on horses and they grab Brian Fantana in a net.
Yeah.
People are on fire. Oh my God. It's just the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
And it brings it back to another great quotable line from for 20 years later. Well, that escalated quickly. I mean, things really got out of hand. Really got out of hand fast.
Brick, I've been meaning to talk to you. You might want to lay low.
You're wanted for murder.
Oh God. It's just like, it's so out of left field. It doesn't need to exist.
Yep.
It's perfect.
I'm proud of you guys. You kept your head on a swivel, and that's what you got to do when you're in a vicious cockfight.
Oh man.
Oh God.
It's so good.
Another one of my, and I love those scenes too, where you talk about the anchor, the news team together. It's that scene where he first talks about being with Veronica, and he's like, "Hey, I think we're gonna go yogging, or I could be yogging. I'm not sure. It might be a soft J." And apparently, it's just where you run for an undetermined amount of time. It's just a silly concept. Makes me laugh. Any other favorite scenes?
I mean, tons.
Yeah. I think just the whole damn movie's great.
Yeah,
it's quotable. Is there any least favorite scenes?
I thought about this, and it's hard to pick a scene in particular. I guess the only thing in the movie that like doesn't play for me now the way that it did when it came out is kind of all the stuff after he gets fired.
Yeah, that stuff where he eats the crap or whatever. It's like, I'll eat the steak, and it's too much. Yeah.
It's like just this side of over the top that it's not that.
I could probably live without it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't have a least favorite scene so much as I have a least favorite actor in this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
David Koechner is not my favorite.
Oh, really?
In general, I'm not. Yeah.
I think it's Koechner. David Koechner. But yeah, same difference.
In general, I'm not a huge fan of his. He's
kind of a one-trick pony. And this trick is just kind of turned up to 11 in this film to be champ kind.
Yeah. I just don't, the only champ scene I really like is when he's drunk in front of the news desk pouring his heart out to Ron.
we should get an apartment together.
I miss
your Musk. I miss your Musk.
It's about the only time the bit goes away, and it's his best scene. So
I liked him, and I do like his intro where he's like, "I have my catchphrase, whammy," which is like Gene Tennis is at the plate and whammy. It's just hysterical. I don't know why I find that so funny. And then especially when he goes in for that first touch, that first like grope of Veronica. Oh, sorry about that, whammy. He makes me laugh with some of that. But you're right. By and large, he's kind of they're all kind of one note, but he's like uber one note, where I don't think there's enough good jokes for him to sustain for an entire movie, much less a sequel.
Yeah. I think they all have their like specific archetype, but I don't know. His is just.
He might have one of my favorite quotes of the movie of, "I will smash your face through a car windshield and then take your mother Dorothy Mantooth to a nice seafood dinner and never call her again."
That is one of the best lines in the movie. And then Dorothy Mantooth is a saint.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. You hear me? She's a saint.
He's got some good stuff. I mean, that's the writing, though, right?
In large, the character is, you're right. The character is just sort of anybody could have played him. I really think you could have plugged 15 different guys in that role and you'd have got the same result.
Yeah. He's not, I wouldn't even say that he's bad. He's just so obviously, to me, at least the weakest member.
Yeah. Hence, he doesn't have the big breakout. I mean, he gets work, but he's not Paul Rudd. He's not Steve Carell. He's not, Steve Carell within 5 years is the 40-year-old virgin, and he's the, and he's on The Office, and he's the biggest name. He's one of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Well, and Dave Koechner plays a bit role on The Office that is basically the same person. It's, I don't know. It's this like overly obnoxious, misogynistic guy, like party guy, past his prime party guy. I don't know. It gets old quickly in
It
a way
does.
that the other ones don't.
You're right. I agree with that. Any other least favorites? I don't think they have any.
I don't think.
I think we're good
I think
there.
it's pretty much this. Yeah.
Next category, as always, Sebastian Stan, Selena Gomez, or Carrie Fisher. Do any of them have a role at any generation of Carrie Fisher, by the way? Any iteration of Carrie Fisher you could plug in here. Could Princess Leia Carrie Fisher have played Veronica Corningstone?
Yes, absolutely.
Would
I think
Ryan have
yes.
enjoyed the movie more if that was the case?
I think.
Look,
not,
I would enjoy the movie the same amount, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I think here, not Princess Leia era. Suburbs, When Harry Met Sally era.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. I was
think
thinking
that-
like Blues Brothers Carrie Fisher. Like, you need to see Blues Brothers
Yeah.
if you want. Yeah, Blues Brothers Carrie Fisher could play Veronica Corningstone.
Yes.
I think if you're looking for a role for Sebastian Stan, it's
Champ. It's Champ. He can replace David Koechner and be Champ.
I don't think that.
no, I think Mantooth.
Yeah, Wes
I was just
Mantooth would have been
gonna
my
say
guess. Wes Mantooth would be the one. He could do that one.
If I could just see him give Will Ferrell a kiss on the forehead,
By God, do
That's
I
it.
respect
God
you.
damn it, do I respect
Yeah.
you? Because that's the scene that would solidify for me that that's him. That
Yeah.
he could do that.
And yeah, I don't know if Selena doesn't have a role here.
No.
There's just nothing for her here. So
It's not her. It's not
no.
her humor.
It's not her humor.
I don't-
It's not her style. It's just not her game at all.
If we were to recast it outside of these people, as we've done,
Yeah, we've
on
talked about
a
the
couple of
recasting,
podcasts,
like the recasting couch. Yeah.
what would you guys think? Who would we recast if we did decide to make this movie as is today?
Yeah, that's good. Because I don't think there's anybody that's like funny enough, right? And that jumps off to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy's got to play that part.
I've got one.
Yeah. What?
Who's that?
Chris Evans as Brick Tamlin.
Oh my God. You know what? No. Okay.
Dumb hot.
No. Chris Evans as Brian Fantana.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Chris Hemsworth as Brick Tamlin.
Okay. Yeah, I could see this. I can
Did
see
you guys
this.
see the female led Ghostbusters movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's not fantastic, but he's in it and he plays a very similar character.
Yeah. I could see Jennifer Lawrence as Veronica Corningstone.
For sure.
The problem is I just don't think you have anyone like Fred Willard.
No. That would probably have to be like a guy who is funny, but like isn't the guy you want leading the cast anymore. That's not maybe not a big name. This is where you move Ferrell and you say, when we're going to remake it, Will Ferrell, you're going to play Fred Willard's character.
I've got
And
another
we're
idea.
gonna do Anchorman.
Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy could be good.
I
Yeah.
think Conan O'Brien.
That's not bad. Yeah, or
That's
Craig
actually a very
Kilborn.
good choice.
Craig Kilborn
Yeah.
would be really good too.
Yeah.
Like somebody like that. Craig Ferguson might be really good for that. I love Craig
You don't think-
Ferguson.
Maybe. You don't think he's a little too like wacky?
Well, I just love watching old episodes of his talk show when he was basically flirting with every female lady that ever came on the show. It was like they were gonna like make out right there. I mean,
Yeah.
Craig Ferguson's debonair, man. Jesus, like
But is that is that the character we're describing?
You're right. Maybe he should play. No, he's too old. I wish he wasn't so old because he'd be perfect for Ron Burgundy.
I know.
There's nobody who can play Ron. That's the problem. There's just
that's the
nobody
hard
who can
part.
play Ron. Like Channing Tatum's too young and too good looking. And
I'm trying to think of like SNL cast members, like really funny like comedians right now, and just none of them have that same energy that Will Ferrell has.
Ferrell's kind of a one of one. Like
Yeah.
there's just not a lot of dudes that can play him.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, a great Arkin or is that Ed Harkin? Ed Harkin.
Ed Harkin.
Good Ed Harkin. Patrick Warburton. Could you
Yeah,
just
no,
imagine
yeah.
him with his deep voice? Hey, we got to become more diverse around here. Ron, what's the diversity? Is a large wooden ship. I do believe was a ship that was. It's like I don't believe the corporation wants to have a large wooden
About that
ship.
line.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's a good recast. So we got to think about. It's hard to do. So
It
do
is.
you want to remake this movie or make it a 10-episode series on Netflix or Hulu?
Neither.
Neither. Yeah, because the sequel didn't work. The sequel didn't work. It was too far gone.
I'm sorry. I
And-
don't mean to come back to this. I have one more for Ed Harkin.
What do you got?
Paul Giamatti.
Why are we spending so much time casting Ed Harkin? He's the only character we can recast.
Character.
Yes, he's the only character we can recast. I agree with you on Paul Giamatti.
Man, right?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That would be good. I would take that.
I'd want Aidy Bryant to be Catherine Hahn. I know that's such a small role, but I just like Aidy Bryant.
I like that.
I don't know.
I like that. You're right. Anchorman 2 didn't work. Like, no. I just think like it was too far gone. And the problem with the jokes is like in this movie, it was just like kismet. It was like the perfect movie at the perfect time with the perfect cast at the perfect ages. And it was just it hit the sweet spot where it needed to hit. And 10 years too late, it's just too late to try to recapture that. And it just wasn't there.
I think it's always been lightning in a bottle. There's so much about this movie that probably shouldn't work on paper. It shouldn't be funny, but it just kind of is. And it feels like they should just be happy that it worked at all. And it's not comedy that you can replicate. It's not world building enough for me to need to know more about these characters.
Didn't need to know anymore. I was good.
Yeah. This is it. This movie's like an hour and a half long or whatever. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I don't need to have a prequel or a sequel. I don't need more information. This is the story. I'm done.
Who wins this movie? It's easy to say Will Ferrell, right? It's easy to say he wins it, but I mean, he was already winning heading in.
Yes. Yeah. I think him, Adam McKay, big winners.
Big win. I think it's a big win for Steve Carell. Like it comes at a really important time for him. Same with Paul Rudd. I think it allows them to springboard into big projects.
Yeah.
And, now you look at Steve Carell, he's doing, it's amazing to watch him as Brick Tamlin and to be like, yeah, like 15 years from now, he's going to play John DuPont in Foxcatcher and be this really psychotic, guy. And you're just like, that's not the same dude. And it is, because Steve Carell's really that good. Like, he's just that good. Same with Paul Rudd.
Yeah. I think this really helped both of them. It's not like they weren't doing stuff before, and it's not like people didn't know who they were, but it really, I think, catapulted them. And then, of course, they're both in the 40-Year-Old Virgin not that long after this. And yeah, I think it just helped kind of redefine their careers, which I'm thankful for.
Big win for 70s culture, I think, to a certain extent, like nostalgia movies, because I think like there's a generation of people who love watching these sort of period pieces, right? There's a reason why things like Stranger Things works, and a reason why like that 70s show worked in the 90s, because people like kind of throwing back to time periods when they were younger, or when times felt simpler, or when times felt easier. I think there's something about that works. You get out of the phone culture and you get back to like pool parties, and you get back to all these different ways that people connected. And I always think that works. I just always think that's a win when you do that, when you use the time period to your advantage, and to kind of, it gets you out of the box a little bit. And I think that's why it's a huge win.
I totally agree. I have a couple written down. Big win for comically large lapels and giant hair. Veronica's lapels could cut glass.
They're starched. Yes.
Big win for, like local news teams.
Big win for the local news.
Big win for local news. Big win for bloopers in the credits.
Thank you. Yes.
Bring it back. God damn it. Bloopers in the credits. We need more of them.
Big win for San Diego. Like, I think, but like, here's the thing. I was in San Diego, as you were, a couple years ago, and I went to a lot of these little stores, and you'd be amazed at all the different shirts I saw in San Diego that were like, "Stay Classy San Diego." I bought a Sex Panther t-shirt while I was in San Diego.
Of course you did.
Yeah, and I can't wear it ever, but it's up in my closet. And it's just big win for Sandy. I can't believe I didn't see a bumper sticker that said San Diego, which means a whale's vagina. Which I love the fact that he laughs in the bloopers at the end of the film trying to say this line. And for him to even say, this is so stupid.
There's so much. Oh my God. Every time, because I love that blooper. I've seen it a million times, obviously.
Yep. Makes me laugh every time.
Now, every time I watch that scene, that's all I can think of is like Will Ferrell, notoriously stoic, being completely unable to get through that line. I love that.
Oh, it's so good. That's the best. I agree. Huge win for San Diego. Huge win for just quippy, negative one-liner insults. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many times have you looked at somebody in the last 20 years and said, well, you have a dirty, whorish mouth. Have you noticed anybody ever tell you that?
You look like a blueberry. Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's simple.
I'm going to punch you right in the ovary. That's right. Right to the baby maker. Straight shot, you know. You have man boobs. You know, it's just this back and forth. It's so great. Oh, that's so funny.
That's also a blooper that I love when they're going back and forth and she calls him a dullard and he's like, well, you're a dirty bitch. You can't think of anything clever.
You're a smelly pirate hooker. Yeah.
Just like the dumbest playground insults.
Yep, it's the best. Just watching adults just absolutely deviate down to the lowest common denominator of insults. It's just the best. You're just a woman with a small brain, a brain the third the size of us. It's science. There's a lot of people who now will be in power who believe that same thing. Anyway.
Am I crying or laughing?
I don't even know. Anyway, who could say? Anyway. Do I have any other categories? I think we got all the categories, right?
I think we got them all, right?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I
do.
I mean, this movie will probably always stay in my like top 20, top 25. It's the most quotable film ever. I don't know how many times I've quoted this film, and I will continue to quote it as long as people understand it. Or until nobody gets it and I look like I'm originally making up great comedy. One or the other.
It's one of those movies that like it was one of my best friends in college before I made any friends. Like I had a roommate and I had a television and I had like 80 something DVDs. And I would put this on at night and I would wake up. I have the whole DVD setup menu or whatever burned into my brain. I love this movie. We're trying to find a time to watch it all weekend. And we're like, do we need to watch it? We've seen it a million times. And
yeah, you got to watch it.
But I have to sit down and I have to see it because it's just, I'm not going to say it's a flawless movie, but it brings me so much joy. It's just ridiculous and fun and dumb, and I love it.
Yeah, this is a film that I would recommend to the audience as hey, you know what? If you're having a bad day, bad week, Friday night, you can put this one on and you're going to be in a better mood within 25 minutes. Like guaranteed. There's only a handful of comedies that can do that. Only maybe 10 to 20, because even movies like Caddyshack are uber flawed now and not nearly as funny as they used to be and kind of dated. Animal House, everybody loves Animal House as like a top 20 film of all time. And it's like, nah, it's not that funny. I mean, it's good, but it's you could tell it's very dated. There's only a handful of movies that can just continuously make you laugh, continuously. And this is one of them. So like, I recommend anytime like you need a little pick-me-up, you got to just put Anchorman in for even 30 minutes. You don't got to watch the whole damn movie. You just got to watch it as long as you need it. And then you'll feel better at the end, I promise. So it's a great one. I love it. I'm glad you picked this, Lauren. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we got coming up next on Peak Cinema? Well,
since Thanksgiving is coming up, it looks like our next movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes, we have to go to... I actually think when we get to it in a couple weeks, it'll be interesting, but I think it is the last, it might be the only Thanksgiving movie like left in the canon. There's just nobody who's like, oh, is there a good Thanksgiving movie you watch? Like, no, not really.
There's not a ton. The ones that I usually watch, I've never seen this one, so I'm excited to watch
You've never seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
I don't know how it escaped me, but I just have never seen it.
Rhino's seen it, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
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 Lauren, if this movie's not in your top 15 when you're... if you hate this movie, I will eat my hat. I will eat my hat.
I'm confident that I won't.
I will boil my hat and eat it right here on this podcast.
We weren't a Planes, Trains family growing up. We were an Addams Family Values family growing up.
That's not surprising.
I know that surprises no one.
When are you going to go as Wednesday Addams for Halloween? When are you going to like dye your hair black and do the Wednesday Addams thing?
When I can find a time machine and look 22 again.
I got to tell you, see, I went to school with a gal and she still does it every year. It's her go-to costume. She's a manager at a restaurant in Minneapolis and she's a sweet gal, shout out. But every year we told her in middle school and high school that she's Wednesday Addams because she was a dead ringer. And so every year she would basically just do the pigtails and be Wednesday Addams. And she still does Wednesday Addams on Halloween night at her bar because she's a dead freaking ringer for it. So you're never too old to be Wednesday Addams.
More power to the people in their 30s plus doing Wednesday Addams, but I'm getting into Morticia territory.
Fair, but you're not tall enough. Like you kind of got to be tall to be Morticia.
That is what heels are for.
That's what, like Allison should be Morticia. Shout out to Allison who's back.
Morticia.
Allison's back in town. Shout out Allison. You could be Morticia, Allison. If you're not Morticia next Halloween, then what are we doing? Like, what are we, honest to God, like, what are we even doing?
Actually, if we're talking Addams Family Values, I really want to be Debbie for Halloween.
I get a lot of Uncle Fester stuff, but I think it's too easy. It's low hanging fruit.
There's something nice about low hanging fruit. You don't have to buy a wig or anything. You don't have to work that hard.
Ryan, look at the bright side. You and I will never be Lurch.
It's true.
Like,
I might be Cousin It.
Cousin It could be a possibility, especially when you do your hair in front of your face. You could be Cousin It for sure. I thought that. I was trying to think if we could get you to be Gomez alongside. If Lauren wants to be Morticia, could you be Gomez? And
we could make that work.
You think we could make Gomez happen?
Yeah. You don't think that you could make Gomez work with just a greasy ponytail?
If we can dye it black, I think we can make you Gomez. Get you a pinstripe suit.
Just gonna shave everything except the mustache.
Yeah. I could see it.
I'll get you the stuff that I use to make my eyebrows darker, and I'll make your mustache.
We'll kind of plaster it down and just get it super dark and look like it's painted on.
See, we've already got this planned out. This is great. I can't wait for next year.
I love that we're planning Halloween. It is November 17th.
Well, it's never too early for you, Lauren. That's what I've learned. If we're trying to make you happy, that's the route we have to go. For Planes, Trains, and Automobiles comes your way next on Peak Cinema. And then we'll get back into our regularly scheduled programs down the road. We've got, again, No Country. We've got Oh Brother. We've got some Christmas films. Yes. Have we picked Christmas movies this year?
We have one Christmas movie because we're going to take a little bit of a break in December.
That's right. We are. But we do have one Christmas movie that we will watch. It's Die Hard again. No, I'm just kidding. I've told myself
Die Hard.
Every 3 years we're going to revisit Die Hard and we're just going to do it again. We're going to Die Hard 2 or whatever. We're just going to keep dying hard every 4 or 5 years. And that might be our goal. No, I'm just kidding. We'll have a movie for you soon. Yeah, then we'll take a little pause on Peak Cinema and rejoin you in 2025. So we may have 3 pods left of the year, 2 pods left of the year. Two pods left of 2024, and then we'll be back again with you in 2025 on Peak Cinema for another round of films. We have really ran through a gauntlet of films in the last year or so. We got to make a new list. Mm-hmm. If you have suggestions, this is where you can send us an email at timpodcast@yahoo.com or timpodcast1@yahoo.com, or you can send us facebook.com/timpodcast. You can leave it on the website, which is timpodcast.podbean.com. Just leave us a comment anywhere, and we'll put it on the list if we want to. Like, you can't give me a shit movie and make me watch it. Like, I'm not doing that, So be realistic. Just saying. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Peak Cinema. Lauren, any final thoughts? Ryan, final thoughts?
No, other than if you haven't seen Anchorman, and
go see it. Go watch it.
Go see it. I don't care if you're 22. Learn some media literacy skills and watch this movie and just laugh and turn your brain off and have a good time.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Thank you to everybody who listens again. Subscribe, leave a comment. We would appreciate it. And until next time, for Lauren, for Ryan, this is Tim. As we all work on our coughs, we'll try to heal up for you next time around. Saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.